welcome to my ASMR video. I'm just kidding. Today we are gonna review the classes and their spells. So sit back and relax, let's roll the intro. So what's going on, guys? As I said in the intro, we're gonna review the classes and we're gonna talk a little bit more about the spells. I'm gonna fly through this video because there's kind of a lot to talk to, but I'm gonna do my best to cover as much as I can in as little as possible time. We're gonna start off with the warrior classes, we're gonna work our way up to the archer classes, and we're gonna finish it off with the mage classes. This video will be purely focused on the classes and their spells, so you can take your time and come back to this video if you need to. And in the next video I'm gonna cover all the content this game has to offer. I'll catch you guys when I'm at the spell trainers. So here we are at the barbarian trainer. I'm gonna explain a little bit about these spells. So the game starts with three classes: the warrior, the mage and the archer, and each one of those has two subclasses. So for warrior we have barbarian and a knight, for archer we have a hunter and a marksman, and for mage we have a conjurer and a warlock. Currently I'm on a barbarian, that's why we're at the barbarian trainer, and I'm gonna review the spells. So the starter spells for each class, so for the warrior, they will always stay. So no matter if I pick the subclass, I will always have the blunt weapons, the piercing weapons, the slashing weapons, and the tactics. And then the specializations will be the two-handed masteries and the war cries. The blunt weapons, obviously, for hammer and maces. The piercing weapons are for spears and rapiers. Slashing weapons are for axes and swords. Tactics are your utility spells. And then the specializations, two-handed masteries is for two-handed weapons or the dual-wield weapons. And then your war cries are your spell buffs for the barbarian. So I'm gonna start with the slashing tree. So the slashing tree is the most used tree for warriors, as far as I can tell, because it has some really strong powers and it has a really strong AoE attack. So every weapon tree has a weapon buff, so accurate swings for the slashing weapons, agile maneuvers for the piercing weapons, and brutal impacts for the hammers. Every weapon tree has a signature attack. So for the slashing weapons it's South Cross, for the piercing weapons it's Riposte, and for the blunt weapons it's gonna be Mind Squasher. South Cross is by far the highest damaging spell for melee weapons in the game. As you can see, it has 100% attack bonus and up to another 65% on top of that, while the Riposte is only 120 damage in total. The blunt weapons is a little bit different. The Mind Squasher is by far the weakest of the bunch, but it has a special effect. It can dispel positive powers of your enemies, meaning if your enemy is buffed and you Mind Squash them, it will remove positive buffs from them, so you have an advantage against your enemy. Then every skill tree has their own passives, so you have the damage passives, so if you skill these you get extra damage. You also have a little bonus of extra mana points per hit on this one. And here you have the same but for piercing, and you gain a little bit of HP per hit. The same for blunt weapons. The blunt weapons doesn't really have a special effect with them. Then you have the AoEs. Typhoon is by far the strongest AoE because it's a knockdown AoE with very high damage. The advantage of knockdown is you can still hit your enemy while they are knocked down on the floor and they are pretty much harmless against you. The AoE of Lightning Strike inflicts a dizzy on the enemy, which means they cannot use spells, but they can still hit you with normal attacks. So it's not the best AoE out of the bunch, but it's still a very strong option. And then Thunder Strike, which is a stun. So a stun means the enemy cannot move, cannot cast, cannot do anything. But the thing is, if you hit them, they can move, cast, and do everything again. So it's a stun, it's useful, but it's not as strong as a knockdown. Every skill tree has their utilities as well. For example, in the slash tree you have the disable limp spell, which means you decrease the movement speed of your enemy. You can crash your enemy, which means you have a lower spell resistance and evade chance. You have Fatal Strike, which removes a lot of protection from your enemy. In the piercing tree we have stuff like Balustra, which makes it so your enemy cannot move. You pin them in place with your spear. You have Impale, it removes dexterity from your enemy and also does damage over time. Brain Piercing removes cast speed from your enemy. In the blunt weapons we have Ribs Breaker, it's the same thing, it prevents your enemy from moving. You have Crushing, removes Constitution. And you have Jawbreaker, which is a dizzy, so your enemy cannot cast spells. Then we have Resistance Passive. In the slashing tree you can resist against blunt damage. In the piercing tree you can resist against slash damage. And in the blunt tree you can resist against piercing damage. The slashing tree has another AoE attack. It's not a 360 like a Typhoon. It's just 180 in front of you. Kind of. No, 180 is not only in front of you. It's just in front of you. It's not 180. In the piercing tree you have multiple thrusts. Same thing. An AoE in front of you. You have in the blunt tree execution instead, which gives you extra critical damage against your foes. And that's basically it for the weapon trees. Then you have the utility tree. You have your knockdown, kick, caution, extra protection. You have Throat Cutter, which basically is an instant kill if your enemy reaches a certain health threshold. So on level 5 your enemy needs 650 HP and then you can just one-shot them from there, guaranteed, unless they resist it, of course. You have Martial Defense. As you can see, it removes critical hit chance from your enemies. You have Rigorous Preparation, increases your evade chance. You have Backslam, it's another dizzy. You have Onslaught, it gives your allies movement speed and it gives them also extra blunt damage on the first hit they do from when you gave them Onslaught. You have Intimidate, it decreases your opponent's movement speed. You have Disabling, it removes protection from your enemies. And you have Martial Reflexes, which increases your critical chance by a fuck ton. Then we go to the specialization spells. So for the Barbarian they are 200 Masteries and War Cries. So Thirst for Blood is like an essential buff. It makes you hit faster, 15% attack speed, and it makes you hit more for each accumulated hit. So you have 5 hits with Thirst for Blood, so the 5th hit is going to be the strongest one out of them all. You have Spiritual Blow, it's a ranged attack for barbarians, it has 8 range, so it's good for people who are running away. You have Rant, removes some mana from your enemies. You have Beast Attack. Beast Attack is a very strong attack. Since Blunt doesn't have something like Southcross or Riposte, usually people use Beast Attack instead because it can go up to a lot of damage and it can inflict dizzy. You have Deafening Roar, it's a stun. Expansive Wave is another AoE attack in front of you. Destabilize, it decreases your opponent's evade chance. You have Fulminating, it temporarily boosts your damage by 50%. Rage of the Earth. It's an AoE knockdown, but it doesn't do really high damage, but it's still an AoE knockdown. And then you have Whirlwind, which is a damage over time 360 AoE. It doesn't do a lot of damage though. Then we have the Warcries. As you can see, I have the most spells in Warcries skilled. You have your Colossus, increases your strength by 50%, but you lose 10% HP when you use this buff. It's not like permanent loss of 10% HP. It just takes down your HP and then it regenerates again, so don't worry. Frenzy, resist physical damage. Off-Wither Hats, weapon damage bonus plus 15%, but this is a buff you give to your allies, not for yourself. You have Threat, opponent evade chance. It says it's increased, it says plus 20%, but it's minus 20% obviously. You have Challenging Roar, extra cast speed. You have Howl, which is an AoE dizzy. You have Berserk, which is your main buff for the Barbarian. It increases your weapon damage bonus. You have Overwhelming Strength, weapon damage bonus, but as a passive. Sprint, so you have movement speed. When you have Sprint on, you take more range damage though. And then you have Unstoppable Madness. For 10 seconds you are kind of invulnerable to every stun in the game, every freeze, every dizzy, every crowd control there is. Then you have War Master abilities. Each class has their own War Master abilities. I do not have every class War Master though, but I can tell you what they have. So we have the War Council, which is the War Master chat, down in chat box. 1 second, I'm gonna prevent me from logging off there. You have the War Master Beacon, which gives your allies 2000 HP. The War Master's Might, which is important because it gives class attribute, which for a Barbarian is of course Strength. The Heroic Shout, an AoE slowdown for enemies. And War Master Blood, which is added HP bonus for your character. Now I'm gonna move on to the Knight, so I'm gonna catch you all then. So now we are at the Knight Trainer, and as I already did the warrior spells, we're gonna skip those, except for the 3 spells I actually forgot to mention. The Forceful Blow, the Gutting, and the Charge. They are the basic attack spells. Forceful Blow is just blunt damage 100%. Gutting is just piercing damage 100%. And of course the same for Charge, it's just slashing 100%. Now the Knight has 2 other specializations of course, which is Vanguard and Shields. In Vanguard you have the Challenge, which is challenging your enemy. They decrease spell resistance and concentration, but it's also 25 range, which means if you have an enemy who's on a horse or something, you can dismount them from 25 range as a melee class, which is kind of cool. You have Taunt. Taunt only works against mobs, so it's very good for bossing. It increases their aggressiveness, but it decreases their protection, so you will hit harder on them. Which kind of sounds dangerous when using it on a boss, but it kind of stays the same, to be honest. Taunt is just also more likely to make the boss aggro you, if you are the first knight to do Taunt, of course, because there will be many knights at the boss. You have Feint. It's a knockdown, basic stuff, you just knock down your enemy. Protector Temple increases your constitution, magical and physical damage resistance. You have Offensive Stance, increases your weapon damage bonus, but it decreases your protection, so it's a very dangerous spell, but also a very powerful spell. You have Defensive Support, which is resistance against all forms of crowd control except Immobilize. You have Troll Skin, which adds health to your health pool for 240 seconds. You have Knight's Haste, 50% movement increase. Heroic Presence, it gives protection to your nearby allies. Army of One, resistance of magical and physical damage by 80%. Onto the shields. You have block, increases your block chance by 150%. You have shield bash, it's a dizzy, so your enemy can't cast. Protect ally, dispels negative powers, and it's also the only dispel in the game that can dispel darkness from the warlocks. You have precise block, absolute block chance 100%, so when you use this, nothing can harm you, nothing can touch you, and everything will be resisted or blocked. The only catch is you cannot move while using this, so it's kind of a double-edged sword. Like, you can block everything if you're in the middle of an enemy army, but you cannot run away while doing it. Your defensive stance resists your damage up to 40%. You have Ethereal Mantle, it gives magical and physical resistance to your ally. Shield Wall, resists physical damage in an 360 AoE. Steadiness, resists knockdown. Star Shield, resists magical damage, it's the counterpart to the Shield Wall. And then you have Deflecting Barrier, which decreases the ranged received damage for your allies and yourself actually as well. Then we have the War Master tree for the knight. Again, the War Master chat. Paladin's Aid. It makes your teammate invulnerable to everything, but it transfers all the damage to you. War Master's Might. Gives your knight extra constitution. Blessed. Your knight can heal himself once for 200 HP. And again, the War Master Blood. So that is it for knight. Onto the archer classes. So we are back with the marksman, and as per usual I'm gonna review the regular archer spells first and then the specializations. So the archer comes with short bows, long bows, tricks and evasion. Short bows, obviously short bow, long bow is obviously the long bow, tricks are utilities, and evasion is your defensive tree. Pretty much basic stuff. I'm gonna pick up the pace a little bit. Rapid shot increases your attack speed. Grounding arrow immobilizes your target. Lightness gives you extra dexterity. Meditation, extra concentration. Adaptability, extra critical chance. Tear apart is damage over time. Duelist, critical chance increase. Hinder decreases weapon bonus or damage bonus rather, and movement speed from your enemies. And Repetition Shot is a AoE that shoots right in front of you. Dual Shot is a regular attack on one target, just dual shot. Shield Piercing, it is a basic damaging spell for the longbow. Parabolic Shot increases your attack range. Maneuver gives you dexterity. Eagle Eye gives you, it decreases your opponent's evade chance. Point Shot gives you critical damage but decreases your attack range. Omnipresent gives you concentration. Break Apart is another, damage over time but also decreases your opponent's constitution. Specialist gives you weapon damage bonus. Obfuscate gives the enemy less concentration and less casting speed. Projectile Rain is an AoE attack that range projectiles over the group of enemies in the area. Then your tricks. Ambush is a knockdown. Sudden Strike decreases the protection. Stunning Fist is a stun. Retaliation is what it says, retaliation. You receive damage and you can return up to, I think it's 90% on level 5 to your enemy. Sticky Touch decreases the attack speed of your enemy. Dirty Fighting, it increases your weapon damage bonus but decreases your attack range. Finesse, target critical hit chance is lower. Sentinel gives you concentration and dexterity. Distracting Shot is a stun. And Caltrops is an AoE movement speed decreasing. So it means you shoot Caltrops arrow and the enemies in the area, they will all receive less movement speed. Evasion, dodge, evade chance is added actually. Mobility, you run faster. Evasive tactics, you gain protection but lose cast speed. Cat reflexes, more evade chance. Acrobatic, resist physical damage. Spell Elude, resist magical damage. Escapist, absolute evasion. So when enemies are using normal attacks on you, They will be evaded 100%. There's no way they can attack you. Except with spells, they will still hit you. Wits gives you intelligence. Low profile is Sanctuary. A Sanctuary in this game means while you're in Sanctuary, nothing can hit you. So for a couple of seconds, nothing can hit you, nobody can heal you, nobody can damage you, nobody can support you, nothing. Son of the Wind, it's the opposite of Escapist. Normal hits can still hit you, but spells can't hit you. And that's basically it for the archers. The marksman comes with aiming mastery and arrow mastery. Aiming mastery is one of the 2 trees it comes with. Deadeye, weapon damage bonus, but it decreases attack speed. Focus increases your attack range but decreases movement. Finger Crush decreases enemy attack speed. Foresight increases your attack range. Cyclop Curse is basically an attack. It's just an attack. It decreases your opponent's attack range, which has interesting potential, but nobody uses it. Lethal Strike is it's like the tank hit of your marksman. It's the strongest damaging spell you have. You can hit crazy amounts with this spell. It's also influenced by your allied buffs. So if an ally buffs you with extra damaging powers, you will gain a lot of damage with this spell. Strategic Position, you receive less range damage. Trained Eye, you have increased critical. Seeking Strike removes Constitution from the opponent. And Hawk's Gaze increases your attack speed. Arrow Mastery, Reach Charged Arrow basically gives you more damage on your basic hits, but it drains your mana and health accordingly. This is a must on marksman. If you run this on if you don't run this on a marksman, you're doing it very wrong. You're basically playing hunter then. Winter Stroke, it's a freeze. Burst of Wind gives your enemy a dizzy. Serpent Bite is damage over time. Ignis Scorch is a AoE right in front of you. It's like a little fire arrow. Ethereal Arrow, it removes 600 health, guaranteed. It cannot be decreased or increased, it's always 600. Needle Blast is a little AoE in front of you. Arcana Strike is an elemental attack. Shoots an elemental arrow, fire, ice and lightning. Fire Rain is a fire AoE. It rains fire over your enemies. And Lightning Arrow is a lightning AoE. It makes it so your enemies run slower. The War Master tree for marksman is again War Master Chat. Fire Arrow. So when your ally is frozen, you can use Fire Arrow and the freeze will go away. Class attribute, Dexterity for marksman. Killer Instinct, attack range. But this only works on top of a fort or castle building. And then War Master Blood. And that's it for the marksman. Next up is the hunter. So here we are on the hunter. I'm gonna skip the archer spells as per usual, and I'm gonna go straight to the specialization. The hunter has scouting, pets, and that is it. In the scouting tree we have ensnaring arrow. It's your main damaging spell for the hunter. It also decreases your enemy's movement speed. It's great for hunting. You can slow down your prey while you're closing in on them. You have Death Sentence. When you cast this, your enemy receives a lot of melee damage. Enemy Surveillance, it's your tracking spell, so you can see enemies in the area. Wild Spirit makes you run faster. Camouflage, you become invisible, and when you strike an opponent while in camouflage, you gain 150 piercing damage on top of it. Inherited Lightness, mana regeneration and dexterity for all your allies. Cold Blood, weapon damage bonus buff. Reveal, reveals other hunters in camouflage, so if you know there's a hunter somewhere near, you can try to reveal him. Confuse, if you cast this on an enemy, they cannot cast any spell that doesn't do damage, so healing their allies is not possible, casting their defense is not possible, stunning you without damaging you isn't possible, and all these things. Stalker Surroundings basically camouflages you and up to 5 allies. Then we have pets, natural dominance. It's your taming skill. You need this to tame your pets, of course. If you have this on level 5, you can tame the highest level pets, which is level 60. Heal your pet. Wild defense, extra defense for your pet. Prominent sight. Your pet gets more attack range. Training, your pet has more base health. Revive your pet. If your pet dies, you can bring him back. Bestial Rev, your pet receives weapon damage bonus. Natural Armor, gives more protection. Nature's Fury, when you cast this, your pet can AoE knock down a bunch of enemies with sometimes a lot of damage added to it. Skin of the Beast, resist damage. Then the War Master spells, of course. War Master Chat, Horn of the Wind, increases movement speed for you and all of your allies in the area, but you need at least 4 allies on you. War Master's Might gives us dexterity. Head of the Pack increases weapon damage bonus for you and all of your allies in the area. And of course the War Master Blood, extra HP. I'll be right back with the Warlock. So here we are with the Warlock. I'm gonna have to cover the mage spells first, of course, and then the specialization spells. So we have Mental, Enchantments, Staff Mastery, and Mana Control. Mana Control is the heart of your mage. Here's where all your mana control happens, obviously. You have the Energy Barrier, which is a barrier that absorbs 1400 damage before it breaks. Mana Burn, you can burn the mana of your enemies. Synergy Bond, you can give your allies mana. You can gain more intelligence. You can steal mana from enemies. You can sacrifice your HP for more mana. You can gain more casting speed with Arcane Devotion. Mana Pool gives you more base mana. Mana Communion gives you gives your allies mana but in an AoE. And the Mana Pylon is a magic barrier in AoE, so it's kind of like the Energy Barrier but in a big AoE for your enemies, for your allies, excuse me. The Mental is your damaging tree. Arcane Missile, basic damaging spell. Beetle Swarm, if you cast this on an enemy they cannot attack. They can still buff though. Blaze is a fire AoE right in front of you. Mind Push is a wind spell that makes it so enemies run slower when they come near you. Pricking Ivy, it's an immobilize. Will Domain knocks down your enemy. Silence is a dizzy. Splinter Wall is 360 damage over time. Time Master is in 360 AoE debuff, movement speed, attack speed, and casting speed. And Sulter, Devoring's Mass, is a damage over time that also slows down health regeneration of your enemy. Enchantments, we have Curse, decreases damage bonus on your enemy. Feline Dexterity, gives your ally dexterity. Blindness, makes your opponent... wait, this is kind of confusing. Blinds the objective it gets recovery. It says again, it gives your opponent extra evade chance, but it should like give them less. Bless gives your ally attack speed and cast speed. Bear Strength gives your ally strength. Bless Weapon blesses your ally's weapon. Dispel Magic dispels negative powers of your allies, except when they are darkness. So as I said, the Protect Ally from the Night is the only spell in the game that can dispel darkness from a Warlock. Fog Switch gives your allies intelligence. Clumsiness decreases your enemy's movement speed. And Mass Dispel Magic is this, but in AoE. Staff Mastery. Basically you can buff your staff with fire, ice and lightning, so you do more damage on your normal hits. Arcane Acceleration, attack speed increased. Arcane Protection, attack range increased. Combat Magic, weapon damage bonus increase. Static Field casts a barrier around you, and when people come near you they automatically run slower. Protection Dome, absolute spell resistance chance, so it's an AoE spell resistance buff for your allies. Metabolic Control gives you concentration. And Evandim's Fury converts mana to damage in AoE. So all the enemies standing near you You can steal up to 650 mana from them and turn it into 650 instant damage on them. Now we go to the Warlock spells, Arcania, Necromancy and Elements. Arcania, you can cast Stalagmite, it's a damaging spell. Slow, slows down your enemies. Petrify Hands, decreases attack speed. Laziness, decreases weapon damage. Meteor, it's a damaging and dizzy spell. The Wind Wall makes it so you receive less range damage. Crystal Blast is an AoE Crystal Blast right in front of you. Fragility resists physical damage, is decreased on your enemies. Golem Fist, strong attack on your enemies. Sultor's Terror is a massive AoE knockdown. It's like the most OP spell you have for a Warlock. Like, you can knock down a whole enemy army with this thing. It's kind of cool. Necromancy, Vampirism, you can steal HP from your opponent. Darkness, this is the spell I was talking about earlier with the Knight and the Mage dispel. So it blocks all positive powers, so no buffs and no heals, no defense, no support, nothing. And only a Knight can dispel it from you. Infuriate, gives your opponent less concentration. Vitality Absorption, if you do damage you can gain some absorption to your health. Sadistic Guards, decreases spell resistance. Sadistic Servants, they steal mana for you from your enemy. The Soul Keeper drains HP from your enemy and also decreases their strength. Cremation, so Cremation is used to send dead enemies back to their spawn, so their conjurers cannot revive them back into the battlefield. Possess Summoning, so when a conjurer is using a summoning you can steal it from him. The Master of Doom is the second most broken spell your Warlock has. It's basically a 360 AoE dizzy, so it means if you cast this, the whole area around you makes it so your enemies cannot cast anything. It's absolutely broken, and on top of that it even removes constitution from your enemies. Elements. Fireball, it's a very small AoE. You shoot a fireball at your opponent and the guys next to him, but like literally right on top of him, not really next to him, also receive a little bit of splash damage. Ice Blast, damage over time, but reduces movement speed for like the first 1 or 2 seconds it's cast on the enemy. Lightning, damage over time. Elemental Conjunction, it increases your elemental resistance obviously. Freeze, freeze your enemy. Frozen Storm is an AoE stun on the enemies. Elemental Exposure makes it so your enemies take more elemental damage. Magma Blast is the third most broken spell on your Warlock. It's a damage over time, but also has a huge impact damage, so it can hit for like 500-600, and then it will tick for another like 1500 damage on your enemies. Twister, it's an AoE immobilize, so everybody in the area cannot run. And then Summon Lightning is an AoE damage over time, which also decreases the strength of your opponents. Then I'm not War Master on my mages because I don't really play mages, but the Warlock, what does he get from War Master? It's a casting speed passive, so you get increased casting speed. You get a teleport to 2 bridges. I'll show you on the map. Can't close this. You get a teleport to this bridge here. And this bridge here, of course, if you're playing on other realms, it's going to be like this bridge or something. I'm not sure about the other realms though. You get a mass pricking ivy, so you can AoE pricking ivy people in your area. So when people are near you, you cast it, everybody is immobilized. And you also have the War Master chat, of course. And then last, you have the War Master blood, I'm pretty sure, so you get extra HP. Next we'll be back with the last class, the Conjurer. So here we are with the Conjurer, so we can skip the mage spells obviously because we just did them. The Conjurer has Life, Summon and Sorcery. Life is your healing tree obviously. Heal your ally, heal yourself, resurrect your ally, regenerate your ally, regenerate yourself, Divine Intervention gives you immunity to non-damaging powers, so like the Darkness or the Confuse from the Hunter, it makes you immune to that. Some other spells, everything that doesn't damage you, the enemy cannot cast on you. Life Savior is a massive heal for one ally. Greater Regeneration is an AoE regeneration. Greater Healing is an AoE healing. And then Mass Resurrection is a mass resurrection, as it says. Revives multiple allies, excuse me. Then you have Summon. You can summon your imps, your demons, your zombies, your golem, and your lich. You can transfer damage to your summon instead. More base health for your summon. Weapon damage for your summon, but decreased defense. More defense for your summon. And you can make it so that your summon drains HP, it seems. Summoning is life. Summoning is... Oh yeah, so your summon can drain HP for himself. Sorcery, you can give yourself some protection. You can give your ally some evade chance. No, this is for yourself actually, excuse me. You can give yourself some evade chance. You can give your ally protection. You can give yourself resistance against crowd control. You can return damage on each hit. It's not like retaliation, one-time damage and then it's gone. This is on for 30 seconds, and every damage in that period will be returned. 1 second, I'm getting partied. Then you have Magic Barrier. You can give your ally resistance to magic. Material Wall, you can give your ally resistance to physical. A Sanctuary again, so you're invulnerable to everything, including support from your allies. Insightful, spell duration. And Steel Skin, resist physical damage up to 70% for yourself. And then again, I'm not War Master yet, because I don't really play mages that often, but the Conjurer spells, they look something like this. You have a teleport to the most important spots of your war zone. So for us, that is the central save here. You can kind of see it, the white little dot there. And also you can teleport to the castle. So for Ignis, I know where those spots are. For Ignis, the central save is here. And the castle is there. And then for the land of the elves, there we go. Their central save is right here, and their castle is right there. Another War Master spell for the Conjurer is, I don't know the name of it, but it's like Healing 8 or something. When you cast it on an ally, all your heals heal for more. Then I think you also get increased casting speed and War Master Blood, and of course the War Master Chat. So that wraps it up for my spell guide, guys. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something from it. To all the new players, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. And the next video will be about the content that this game has to offer, and what the end goal is for your realm to achieve. So see you all in the next video, and thanks for watching.